Hey guys, this is our video today on forms of be, have, and do. Now, these are some of the most popular verbs that you would use, and something that you'll learn today. You will learn to distinguish among be, have, and do as helping verbs and as main verbs. Okay, so when we're looking for them, you have to understand sometimes you'll see them as a main verb, and sometimes you'll see them helping an action. Okay, and then also after this, you should be able to identify the forms of be, have, and do for different subjects and tenses. We should be able to try out a few at the end, and using a chart that I'm going to show you, you should be able to figure out which form works based on the context of the sentence, and I can show you how to do that when we get there. Okay, next page. Told you that they could be main verbs, but they could also be helping verbs. Okay. Now, here's an example of one of those forms of be, have, and do as a main verb. Now, present form of be would be is. English is fun. Okay, which is most definitely true, right? Here's the thing you have to understand: for these types of verbs, for them to be main, they have to actually be linking. Check it out. Fun is actually linked to English by is. Okay? Now, when you find it in the second time, well, is really leading into this other action of teaching. Okay? So in the helping verbs, you know that it's actually helping an action occur. If it's the main verb, well, that's usually going to be a linking verb. Alright, here's another one. The students are smart. Okay, and we know from our videos before, are what? Smart. Is smart still an action? No, it definitely isn't. It's describing, okay, or the state of being for the students. So that links them. And then if we look here, the students are, find our word of be, have, and do, which is the past tense of, present tense of be, but for plural. And are what? Are watching. Yes, that's another action. So technically we just have are helping this action occur. Now, just want to make sure that you realize these verbs can also form contractions with not. So if you're looking for them in a sentence, sometimes you're going to see isn't, aren't, hasn't, don't, doesn't, and haven't. Now, if you are told to find that verb, make sure you remember that it is actually only the root of that contraction. Okay? Because if you remember not, oh, I went a little too far in that, so let me do it right since it's supposed to help you here. If you remember, the only parts that are the actual verbs don't include not, which tells you the frequency, which means it's an adverb. Now, this chart is actually the same chart from your textbook. And if you look, you've got columns here for the verb be, and it's got the different forms of it, and then you've got columns for the verb have and a column for the verb do. Now, this is every instance that you might use. Okay? And here's kind of what you'll have to think about. As you go through and you find your subject, and then if you imagine, for example, let's say, let me make sure I have the right thing. Let's make sure you want a form of be and you want it for the subject I. Okay, well, then it's going to be in this column somewhere. Okay, and then wherever they cross, if I could draw straight, that would be great. You know it's going to be am or was. Now, am is the present tense, was is the past tense. So if you're trying to say something that happened in the past, you would choose was. And vice versa, in the future, you would choose am. Now, this is something you might want to take note of. Since this is in your textbook, this would be a good page to have open if you're trying to figure out which word goes in what context. Now, I'm willing to bet that the majority of you, as you're going through this, because you've been speaking the language so long, it kind of comes naturally. But just in case it doesn't, this chart is something that can help you. And when you have to make a note card for your test eventually, it can help as well. So let's say we have here. And our subject is they. Now, guys, that could also be any other plural subject. So they could be children, it could be teachers, it could be students. And we want to figure out, all right, what it's going to be. We go down, and where they cross are these two words. Now, has would be present, had would be past. Now, in every instance, you have the present tense on the first side and the past tense as the second. Present, past, and all the way down the line. Okay? So I would say, you don't have to study this chart right here, right now, but know that it's in your book, and when it comes time for you to do your assignment, it would be a good thing to have out. And I just want to reiterate one more time. I, you, those are specific. He, she, it, you could substitute any singular noun there. The truck, the dog, okay? We, you, those are specific plural subjects, but they, guess what? You could insert any plural noun there as well. And then you always have to find your tense, just kind of like Battleship, where they line up, that's where you go. Alright, next page. We're going to do some on our own. I told you this would probably be a shorter section, but the weather is very dry this year. Okay, so we're talking about a form of be. You see our picture. It's nice and dry, desert-like conditions. And if we're talking about something that happens this year, is that present or is that past? Present, past. Which one? Yeah. Oh, if you guessed is, then you would be correct. Now, I would think if you would not say the weather are very dry this year. You would hear that it sounds wrong, and that's good because you've grown up speaking English. Half the time Noah, who's only 2, realizes that sounds wrong. He's getting to that point in his development. Okay, let's do another one. We haven't or hasn't had rain for weeks. So we're talking about the same tense but a different word. Okay? Well, it has to do with plural and singular. If you remember from that chart, the plural, you would use have. Okay? Whereas the singular, you would use has. Okay? For example, you could say the teachers have. Right? Anything that usually has an S, you want to go away from that when you choose your verb. So that would be haven't. Okay? And if this were singular, then it would be hasn't. Now your chart would be able to help you with that, and that's why I'm encouraging you to keep that out as you do work. I am or are interested in farming. Okay, so we have another form of be here. See our farm, our nice tractor. I think some sort of tractor. I guess I'm not a farmer. But what I do know is I is a singular. If you had your chart and you went across, you would realize that I are does not make sense. So it would be I am. Okay, and then according to the radio, a storm coming soon. Okay, now let's say you find your chart. You first have to find what your subject is. Well, in this instance, it's storm, right? Storm, and is storm singular or plural? Well, it is definitely singular, so we find it is. Okay? I hope you see the method to this, because each time you do it, you're realizing, hey, this chart works. If you use that chart, there's really not an excuse to miss very many on your homework. I would hope that you would be able to figure that out. And then, as you can see, you got a nice Kansas storm there. Okay, in this one, how much rain do or does the crops need? Okay, sometimes it's tougher when you have a question. Okay, sometimes it might be easier to say the crops and then either does need or do need how much rain. Okay, and then that might help you think of it. But if, let's say we do fix it and say the crops does need, well, if we have an S here, remember what I said before, your plural usually is going to be the one that does not have an S. Okay, so the crops do need. Singular, which typically would not have an S, so if it says crop, then we would say the crop does. See the correlation here? If you have an S, you typically go with the verb that does not have an S. And then if you don't have an S, you typically go with the verb that does. And that's just one of the ways that the English language works, and I'm willing to bet a lot of you probably know that just by the way that you speak. For example, if I said to you, how much rain does the crops need? You would kind of look at me with this awkward look on your face saying, Mr. Fincham, I'm pretty sure that you need to check your grammar. So the answer, how much rain do the crops need? Alright, and so guys, I told you this would be a relatively short video. If you can remember one thing from me, what I want to remember for you is to realize that if you use that chart, and I'll go back to it one more time here. Okay, if you use that chart, you can find, as long as you have your subject, okay? I'll use a line this time to make it good. As long as you have your subject, any singular subject for this, check it out. Your line can go across, and then whatever verb you have, it's where they intersect. Okay, it's where they intersect. It's where they intersect. You just have to know the tense. Am I trying to say past or present? Present or past, present or past, and that should help you. All right. So hey, under 12 minutes, not too bad. You guys have a great night learning some English.